Welcome to the Secret of Oneness. You all know me because we are one. Those of you who are asleep, my name is Stephen, and we're going to talk about 2 Corinthians 10, verses 3 through 5. This is titled No More Effort. It's part one of a part two. It's called The War Within Your Imagination. So I like to start off with a Neville Goddard quote. The battle man fights is fought out in his own imagination. So again, there's no more effort when you understand this, okay? So let me talk about the scriptures. 2 Corinthians verses 10, 3, 4, and 5. For those who watched my last video about the sneak peek about what's coming and have read the scripture, you'll know what I'm talking about. Those who haven't, I'm going to read it for you right here. And this part one is going to be dealing with verses 3 and 4 only, and I'm going to do part 2 for verse 5. So it says, "For though we walk in the flesh, we do not wage battle according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but divinely powerful for the destruction of fortresses." Now, verse 5 that we're not going to talk about until part 2, that says we are destroying arguments and all arrogance raised against the knowledge of God. And we are taking every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. Now remember, Christ is not a person. Christ is the wisdom and power of God. So remember, most people are teaching like techniques for you to get something, try to make something happen out there. Remember, I'm teaching identity, all right? Because your identity is what manifests, right? And so the techniques help point you back to who you already are, which is your true identity. Your fulfillment. You're all fulfillment, okay? And so really remember, the techniques are only pointing you back to who you are. You're just seeing who you already are and what you've already experienced or what you already have. So when you see the $3,000 in your bank account, that's who you've always been. You've always been money. It's just now the technique is showing you who you are, okay? But let's move on. So let's talk about the real war, which is within the inner man, right? It's not the external world. Remember, there's nothing outside of yourself. So verse 3, "For though we walk in the flesh, we do not wage battle according to the flesh." So in the Greek, I like how the Greek puts this. It says in flesh for walking, not according to flesh do we wage war. It's very simple. It's very clean. I like how it's written. Let me say it again. In flesh for walking, not according to flesh do we wage war. So let's break this down a little bit. It's saying that the flesh here is to experience the physical and not to wage war against it. Remember, that's the mirror, okay? Now let's get into the breakdown of the scripture. So here, the word in, I-N, I know that sounds kind of weird that I'm going to explain the word in, and I've done this in many of the other videos, but I'm going to do it again now. The word in, it means properly, it's within or inside. But figuratively, it means within the realm of or the sphere of, as in a condition or a state. Now, we talk about Neville Goddard, we talk about conditions and states. So this is talking about within a state in which something operates from the inside or within. So the state is something that's operating within you. That's what the word in means. It's something in you that's operating as a state. Did you catch that? When Neville says to step into a state or be the state, it's talking about something that's operating from within you. That's talking about being that person. If you want to be a wealthy millionaire, then you have to operate from within as that millionaire. That's what you have to do. So let's go on to the word flesh, because this is interesting. So the word flesh in the Greek is 4561, and it's sarx. S-A-R-K-S is how it's that's how it is in the Greek. And it means carnal. It means of human origin or empowerment. So that means when you're talking about the flesh in the Bible, it's talking about things that are empowered by the flesh, which a lot of times is logic or your carnal mind, which I talk about a lot. Okay? And generally, it says it's generally negative. Your flesh is empowered or of human origin is generally negative. It's referring to making decisions or actions according to self, done apart from the faith, which is God's inner working. It says, thus, what is of the flesh or carnal is by definition displeasing to the Lord. Okay, let's just say that that's displeasing to the spiritual realm or the universe, right? Even things that seem respectable, in short, flesh generally relates to unaided human effort, which means like decisions and actions that originate from self or empowered by self. So when somebody says, that we walk in the flesh, it's just not talking about you walking around with your skin suit, okay? This is talking about like it's human origin, it's empowered, and it's usually negative because it goes against God, right? It goes against that universe. It goes against the spiritual realm within you. And a side note, if you go back and read Romans 8:7, it says that the carnal mind is against God and it always will be. So the flesh, the carnal mind, the logic, the figuring things out, the doing, the trying, all of that is against God. It's all in the flesh. Okay? You're always operating when you're thinking, trying, doing, logic, right? That's all operating outside of the external. It's all in the external. Okay. That's pretty powerful when you understand that. When you really get that you're operating in the flesh, you're operating completely in the wrong realm. So the word walking here in the Greek, it's from peri or pateo, and it means to tread all around. It means walking at large, especially as proof of ability. And just figuratively, it means to live. Okay, so when it says that we're walking in the flesh, it's saying that we're living from the flesh, which again, I just mentioned, it's negative, it's carnal, it's generally unaided human effort, right? Your decisions and actions out of that. So let me go on a little thing here. When people talk about inspired actions, they think it means, oh, maybe I should go text this person and ask them out on a date. Maybe I should try to buy this one thing and see how much it's gonna, like, you're going out on actions and you're trying to make something happen, right? That's human effort, right? That's walking in the flesh. That's living from that carnal reality. You're trying to make something happen. It's the trying and doing. It's all negative. Okay. So the word in the Greek here for do we wage war. Okay, this is 4754. And it means properly to contend or fighting like a soldier in war. Figuratively, it means to engage in spiritual warfare. And again, spiritual warfare, the religious community, the Christians, that when people say spiritual warfare, it's almost like you're fighting devils and demons and all sorts of crazy stuff. But really in spiritual warfare is what's happening within you, which is what Neville mentioned, that the war that's within your imagination, because it's the spiritual realm, it's the universe, it's the 5D. That's where all the war is happening within yourself, right? It's within imagination. So my interpretation of this scripture is it's when you're making decisions and actions using human effort is operating and living within the physical realm like a soldier fighting a war. Let me say that one more time. Making decisions and actions using human effort is operating and living within the physical realm like a soldier fighting a war. Now remember that, okay? Because we don't want to fight a war. We don't want to fight everything outside of us. We don't want to think and fight logically by trying and doing and trying to, is this inspired action or not? Is this inspired action? Should I do this? Maybe if I went down to that place and gave them my resume and talked to somebody, in person, maybe I'd get the job. Maybe I just kind of feel like I should do that. That's not inspired action. Inspired action is action that you have taken that you didn't know was going to lead you to the end. Okay. You look back and realize, oh, you know what? When I called that person, I just happened to talk to this person and then that person led me to that. And that's how it all unfolded. Wasn't that? You don't realize you're doing it. Okay. It's not carnally inspired action. It's spiritual and you don't know it. Okay. All right. Let's go to verse 4. Verse 4 here. This is focusing on the power of imagination, awareness, and spiritual truth as the tools for inner transformation. So here's the verse. For the weapon of our warfare are not of flesh, but divinely powerful for the destruction of fortresses. Now, when I break this down, it's pretty incredible what it's talking about, because you don't realize when you're in that inner knowing, you don't realize what's actually happening. It feels like nothing is happening, but a lot is happening, and I'm going to show you that right here. So the word weapons in Greek is 3696, and it means properly it's an implement normally used for warfare. In the New Testament in 3696, it means instrument is always in the plural, which means weapons to wage war. So it's talking about weapons, and it's talking about an instrument to make war, right? Guns, knives, whatever, the typical stuff we have in today's military, tanks, those are instruments of war, okay? So the weapon itself is something that causes a war. You're waging war against somebody. So when you have whatever battle's going on, people aren't fighting with spoons and forks. They're fighting with guns and, rocket launchers and tanks and airplanes. So those are the weapons. So an airplane is actually a weapon of war, if that makes sense. So warfare in the Greek is 4752, and the definition is just warfare. It's military service or campaign. But I want you to recognize that warfare, it's referring it to a military service or a campaign. A campaign is more than just one act. It's a multitude of acts all at once, okay? So, and the word powerful, this is pretty cool. The word powerful in Greek is 1415, and it's dynatos, right? And properly, it means able or describing what is made possible because of the power or the ability exerted by the subject. It's exerted by the subject. So the definition is powerful, mighty, able, or possible. And the root word is dunamai. Okay? So the word dunamai, or what we also say sometimes is dunamis, the word powerful comes from the root word dunamis, or dunamai, and that is where we get the word dynamite from. In the English language, it means dynamite. So now think about when we're talking about powerful, we're talking about something explosive. We're talking about something like dynamite that explodes, right? So that is how powerful, right, the weapons are for our warfare. They're not carnal, but they're divinely powerful, okay? So the word divinely here is 2316, and it's theos, and it properly means God, or the creator and owner of all things. And long before the New Testament was written, it says that it referred to the supreme being who owns and sustains all things, right? So God was not first thought up in the Bible, okay? Because the Bible was written long after, the New Testament was written and stuff. So they always referred to God or the creator as the owner of all things. He's the supreme being. The word destruction here in the Greek is 2506, and it means demolition. And it means taking down or apart to destroy. And the root word kathario is the word kata and herimaya, and it means down or to choose or make one's own. Okay? So you're taking something down and you're taking it down as your own. So properly take down for oneself. It means to forcibly yank down, destroy, leaving nothing standing or even in good working order. Cast down. The definition is to take down, to destroy, to demolish, or to dethrone. Okay? One thing I want to point out here is when we talk about divinely destruction, divinely powerful for the destruction of a fortress, it's saying that leaves nothing standing, not even in good working order. Okay? It's like dust. It's like powder destroyed. Okay? And you're dethroning or you're demolishing or you're destroying, right, those thoughts, those things that are going on in your mind, right? But it's talking about the strongholds. And those thoughts and those things we're going to talk about right here, it's a stronghold. In the Greek, it's 3794. And it's oxaru, and it means fortify. Now get this. A stronghold is a fortified military stronghold, a strong-walled fortress. Okay? It's a heavily fortified containment. It's used figuratively of a false argument in which a person seeks shelter or a safe place to escape reality. Now, I want to touch on this a little bit and expand on it, because check this out. They are referring to your thoughts and an argument. You know how Neville talked about your inner talking, okay? I want you to pay attention to this, because your inner talking is a stronghold. It can be a stronghold for good or bad, okay? So a stronghold, it's an argument in which a person seeks shelter. It sounds like an identity. So the stronghold that you have in your mind going around that your SP or the 3P, or maybe it's a boss, or maybe it's about money. Maybe it's about the rent money that you have no idea how you're going to pay the rent because you don't have any money. And now you're thinking that there's no way around this, right? And that's a heavily fortified containment. It's a false argument in which a person, you're seeking shelter in that old identity, right? You want to be the millionaire, but you're seeking shelter in the broke person because that's what's natural to you. That's the confinement. That's the stronghold, right? And it's a heavily fortified containment. And you escape the reality that you're fulfilled. You're always fulfilled. You are fulfillment. You are the Christ. You are, the universe is within you. You have all things, okay? But you're seeking shelter in this fortified containment. And you're escaping the reality of who you really are. You're not the person who you think you are, okay? I hope you get this, because it's talking about, I want to retouch on this, because this is so important for you to get this. I want you to get a picture of this. For the weapons of our warfare are not of the carnal. They're not flesh. They're not external. There's nothing outside of yourself, right? But what you have is divinely, it's God, creator, powerful like dynamite, and it leaves nothing standing of the fortresses that you've built in your mind. So when you go into the I am and you say, I am healthy, that is destroying that fortress in your mind of I am sick, I have this problem, I have this disease, I am broke, I'm lonely, I don't have a spouse, or whatever it may be. It's going to destroy that. But the problem is you don't see it in the physical realm, remember? Because those are conditions. Those are conditions that are outside of you. Everything is within you, right? And so I want to give you my interpretation of that verse. And it says, the instruments for a military or spiritual campaign do not use human flesh, but explosive of power to take down a fortified fortress and forcibly dethrone a false argument where an identity seeks shelter to escape reality. And I kind of just touched on that a little bit. But I want to say that again. The instruments for a military or spiritual campaign do not use human flesh, but explosive of power to take down a fortified fortress and forcibly dethrone a false argument where an identity seeks shelter to escape reality. Okay? So I want to put verses 3 and 4 together and read it together, okay? And we'll talk about it just a little bit. So making decisions and actions using human effort is operating and living within the physical realm like a soldier fighting a war. The instruments for a military spiritual campaign do not use human flesh, but explosive of power to take down a fortified fortress and forcibly dethrone a false argument where an identity seeks shelter to escape reality. So what's happening here is making decisions and actions is all human effort. Okay. It's operating out of the physical realm like a soldier fighting a war. Okay. You're fighting this war. You're doing everything you can on the outside. You're following them on Instagram. You're texting them. You're asking what's going on. You're purposely going to their place of work and running into them at lunchtime. You're doing all these things. You're trying to like force that human effort, right? But the instruments that we use within yourself for a military campaign, a campaign for all the things that are going on, we do not use human flesh, but we use the explosive of power to take down a fortified fortress and forcibly dethrone the false arguments in your mind. You're dethroning that identity of I'm broke, I'm not loved. You're going to dethrone that entire thing. Where that identity, where you're trying to keep seeking shelter, you keep going back to that identity. I am power. I am all that is. I am love. I am perfection, right? There's nothing that's better than me. I'm the best. And then you go back and you get dethroned. You dethrone that right back to, no, I'm not that good anymore. I'm not that person. This person left me. I don't have any money. And you have to use your weapons, okay? So like, it's almost like you're operating like, I have a little couple notes here that I put down. It's like you're operating in human effort. It's like fighting with your bare hands. Imagine going into a military campaign and you're fighting with your bare hands. That's about how effective you're going to be when you're doing this, because you're limited by the physical senses. You're limited to your senses, and really, what's outside of you is just the mirror. Okay, you're just looking at a mirror outside. But true warfare happens within, and is divine demolition. Remember, it leaves nothing standing, not even in working order. So when you step into this, okay, that third party is never even going to be like it ever worked ever. It's going to demolish that whole thing, okay? We don't fight with the flesh, we detonate with power, okay? Our weapons are supernatural. They're forces, okay? I'm going to give you a sneak peek into what's going to be in the next part too. But those forces are love, joy, peace. It's resting in the knowing. It's resting in the knowing. I already have that. It's all done. It's been taken care of. You have the conviction of knowing that it's done. I don't need to go look for a job. I have a job. I don't need to worry about paying the rent. The rent's been paid already. I don't need to worry about whether they're going to come back, or they're going to text me, or whether they're going to move back to the house. They've already moved home. We're already together. It's the resting and knowing. That is like dynamite. Those things will obliterate mental and logical strongholds. It takes down false identities from their thrones, exposing the illusion they hide behind. So here's what's crazy. Those false identities, you're putting them on a throne. You're putting them on a throne. And you're saying, I'm the broke person. I'm the person who's not loved. And you're worshiping that throne. It's like a fortress, man. And when you walk in love and you walk in that knowing that I am perfection, I am who I say I am, and you live from within and not from within the flesh, right? Which is carnal and logic and figuring it out, because it doesn't make sense. When you do that, you're going to dethrone, you're going to destroy those fortresses. It's like a military campaign. And so when you're resting in that knowing, it just seems like nothing's happening. But things are detonating like dynamite in the background. You don't see it, you don't hear about it, but what will happen is you'll see the destruction later on, because signs will follow to prove what you've just done.